You're listening to the podcast of Iris Josephina. If you're passionate about exploring the menstrual cycle, cyclical living, body wisdom, personal growth, spirituality, and running a business in alignment with your natural cycles, you're in the right place. I'm Iris. I'm an entrepreneur, functional hormone specialist, trainer, and coach, and I am on a mission to share insights, fun facts, and inspiration I discover along the way as I run my business and walk my own path on Earth. Here, you'll hear my personal stories, guest interviews, and vulnerable shares from clients and students. Most people know me from Instagram, where you can find me under @CycleSeeds, or they have been a coaching client or student in one of my courses. I'm so grateful you're here. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, Panquetzani. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Iris.
I'm so happy you're here, and we have so many beautiful things to cover in this episode. But I would like to start first with asking you, who you are and what is the beautiful, important work that you do.
Shona huella, piyali no toca Panquetzani tisip. My name is Panquetzani, and the work that I do is work with female and women's bodies, reclaiming the womb using ancestral healing. My lineage is from Mexico. On my mother's side, we're from Coahuila, Durango, Zacatecas, everything that's considered la Comarca Lagunera, which is northern Mexico, close bordering Texas. And then on my father's side, we're from the Valley of Mexico, central Mexico, which is Mexico City and Tlaxcala. And what I do is I bring ancestral traditions to life. I have folks practice the legacy of wellness and healing that our ancestors left for us so that we can thrive in our bodies, so that we can be hormonally balanced, so that we can be fertile, so that we can have healthy pregnancies, recover postpartum, and move into menopause in the best way possible. My focus is on health and longevity. That includes spiritual, mental, physical health, and all of the things that we need, including community, family, and the social infrastructures that we need to keep us well.
Beautiful. And can you share a little bit more about the lineage that you come from, the healing lineage that you come from?
Yeah, for sure. My family practices what we call curanderismo. Curanderismo is it's a Spanish word. It means like healing, like the ism of healing, right?
Mm.
Curar means to cure, and it's a Spanish word, but the curanderismo philosophy is actually not based in Spain or Spanish philosophy. It's rooted in Mesoamerican history, Mesoamerican philosophy. And we can go so deep into what comes from where, because like a lot of post-colonial religions, practices, and philosophies of medicine, curanderismo is not only Mesoamerican medicine, but it also has African influence and European influence. African influence because of the way that Arabs were in Spain for 500 years, and also because of cohabitation between African enslaved folks and indigenous enslaved folks on Spanish plantations in Mexico. And this is also where the colonial aspect, the Spanish European aspect comes into play. So curanderismo draws from all of these bodies of knowledge to deliver concise, time-tested, and really relevant, easy healing. When I think of curanderismo, one of the things that comes to mind is my abuela's philosophy of use whatever you have. So she'll look in her garden and see what is in season, what is in abundance right now. And this is how curanderismo grew, because the curanderismo that's in Arizona, for example, is not the same as the curanderismo that's in Texas or California or Central Mexico or Northern Mexico. It's all different, and it's all based on local topography. What can I grab? Are these mountainous herbs? Are these herbs from the forest? What kinds of foods do we have available to us? And so I feel like today curanderismo is almost homogenized and it looks like it's supposed to look a certain way.
Mm.
This is right, this is wrong, but it's a false dichotomy because every family and every region practices curanderismo in their own way. The philosophy, though, is the same. So the philosophy of curanderismo is that we have a body that is inseparable from our spirit,
Mm.
which means if we treat the body, you also must treat the spirit. You must treat the mind. We are holistic beings. We're not just patching up a scab. We're curing the susto, the fear, the shock that happened when you got that cut, right? So we're curing everything from physical to spiritual. The other aspect of curanderismo is that we believe in animistic forces in our body. We believe in that our organs, they're almost like energy hubs or spirit centers,
Mm.
which means that every organ has its own contribution to the whole. And if one organ, for example, the uterus, if that is not doing well, then the whole is also compromised. The whole is in WHE.
I got what you meant. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Did you want to add something more?
Yeah. So in Mesoamerican philosophy and also in curanderismo, so the difference between curanderismo and Mesoamerican philosophy is Mesoamerican medicine is rooted in ancient religion and medicine, which means all of the herbs and food used are bioregional to Mesoamerica.
Mhm.
But curanderismo includes everything modern day. So some, I'm not saying I endorse this, but some remedios, some remedies will use like Coca-Cola. Like boiled Coca-Cola with ginger. Like some people do that. And I don't say that it's wrong, even though I wouldn't even drink Coca-Cola even if I will. Um, for so many reasons.
Oh.
But, that's the way that certain people will practice or curanderismo, and it belongs to all of us. This is medicine that belongs to all of us who are practicing. And so the uterus, if we are guardians of our wombs, then we have to realize that when we guard the uterus using Mexican traditional medicine, using curanderismo, that means that the spirit of the uterus needs to be well,
Mm.
not just the physical part of the uterus. And so when we think of, well, what is the uterine spirit? What is the uterine energy? Womb energy is creative energy, it's fertile energy, it's protective energy.
Mm.
And any time that we haven't been able to exert our self-protection or protection of loved ones, any time where our emotions or our soul was chipped away at because we weren't able
Mm.
to use our womb energy, protect, preserve, create, then this impacts the uterus physically. And the way it looks like if the uterus is impacted physically is a dropped womb, a dropped uterus. And in Curanderismo, we call this a matriz caída, a dropped womb.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. I love the idea that every organ has its contribution, especially if we compare it to like Western medicine, how all organs are so separated, and literally they have like a department that looks at the kidneys and a department that looks at the womb and everything that's
Mhm.
involved in a reproductive system. But obviously we are whole, like our body literally is one piece. When you look at it, it's one
Mhm.
piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love how that wisdom is preserved, and to me it's the truth, how everything in the body is connected, how
Mhm.
organs communicate. And I love that that is how you take that as true and love on and treat the body as a whole so that it
Yeah.
can thrive as a whole.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mm.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what, according to you, is the role of this ancestral healing system in our current world? You already explained that every community has their own way, but how do you see this beautiful modality of healing and supporting the body in our current modern,
Ooh.
rather disconnected world?
There are so many diverse and unique ways that we implement ancestral medicine today. And one of those ways that I want to highlight is through postpartum rituals.
Mm,
And I want to highlight this because this is the biggest transition that a woman's body will go through.
mm,
And culturally, we go through this in silence. We are emotionally neglected. We're neglected a lot of times by healthcare providers. And in the US in particular, we have extremely high infant and maternal mortality death rates.
mm,
We are in the top 5 in the world for maternal mortality. And a lot of this happens during postpartum.
mm,
Ancestral rituals are here to guide us through this sacred rite of passage. And when you compare that to Western culture, postpartum is something that we're supposed to do alone and in silence. And we're expected to function the same way that we did before. We're
mm.
expected to be the same amount of productive. We're expected to look good. I say that in quotation marks, look good right away, right? And so there's so much irrational pressure
Mm.
placed on our bodies and our recovery that it really takes the sacredness out. It desanctifies postpartum.
Wow. Yeah.
And that is a form of gender violence. We this country in particular talks about gender violence around the world, right? And we quote unquote condemn it. And we'll talk about other countries and how backwards they are. But what this country needs to do is look at itself.
Yeah.
This way that postpartum families are neglected is the first form of gender violence that a baby will experience,
Mhm.
right? Because the babies are the ones who are most impacted by this violence against their mother and their families. And so, what does postpartum look like in Mexican traditional medicine? And I wrote a book about this. It's coming out September
That's so
24th.
exciting.
You can pre-order it now, actually. Pre-order it now. Pre-order 4 copies, one for you, one for a family member, one for a friend who's pregnant, one for a friend who's postpartum. I feel like when you read this book, even if you had your baby 10 years ago, there is such a sense of closure for you.
Mm.
That's why I felt this way. I was right. I wasn't going crazy. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't depressed. I was feeling rage.
Mm.
All of the things that I was supposed to get, I didn't get postpartum, right? So, what does it look like? It looks like traditional foods, it looks like rituals that massage, move lymph, bring back circulation so that you grow healthy tissue. It's
Mm.
rebozo movements, which is a sheet or a shawl, like a textile, an indigenous textile that we use to manipulate the body and to shift organs, to make space in the bones, to stretch out tendons, to make sure there's mobility in the muscle and ligaments. And it's crucial for recovering postpartum. We use healing teas, that the vaginal steam bath, herbal slap bath, and all of these remedies are meant to staunch bleeding in the uterus so that you don't bleed out,
Mm.
to facilitate oxytocin, which is the love hormone, the hormone that we feel when we're breastfeeding, body feeding, or having an orgasm. Even when we hold for more than 20 seconds, we're feeling a surge of oxytocin. And so the hierbas do that. They warm the organism, they warm the uterus, they speed healing, they relax your nervous system. So these are protective, these are volatile oils that are protecting, they're guarding you, they're guarding your fire so that you don't burn out. In Mesoamerica, in Mexico, Tenochtitlan, where my paternal family's from, we had a tradition where and this goes back to pre-colonial times, where you keep a fire lit in the home for at least 4 days postpartum, day and night.
Mm.
The fire, the fire, the fire, feeding the fire, fanning the fire, keeping the family warm, keeping the baby warm, focusing on this fire. One of my colleagues and friends, Jenny Silva, and I quote her in my book. You can read this part in my book, Thriving Postpartum, indigimama.com/book. And she says that birth and postpartum and parenting is a sacred fire. And that if we don't tend to that fire, then the fire goes out and chaos happens.
Mm.
Relationships fail. Um, Mothers, parents don't feel good in their sacred role, you
Yeah.
know, and it all goes back to the babies. Everything goes back to the babies. I feel like I do work with mothers and wombs, but really the work directly impacts the next generation. Our semillas, we call our babies our seeds.
Oh, I love that. Mhm. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Yeah, postpartum is such an under honored part of our cyclical continuum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm so excited for your book. Like, I'm actually in my preconception phase right now. So I'm like researching all the things. And I recently discovered that just 1.5 generations ago, my ancestors, my grandmothers, they had something called closing sheets in the Netherlands, which are cotton sheets that they used to sleep under and then cut into these pieces, which are very similar to rebosos and the closing rituals and the bengkung belly binding. It's like, oh my God, my ancestors had this too, you know?
That's
And
amazing.
I feel it's so important for everybody to just trace back their own ancestry and see like what was there? What were we doing before the medical world like took over and destroyed everything? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first exercise that I have my students. I teach a course called Encerrar las caderas, Reclaiming la Cuarentena. And I train practitioners to do what I do so that they can go out to their communities and hold these rituals for birthing folks and postpartum folks. And the first assignment that I give them is go back to your mother, your grandmother, your aunts, anyone who was around when you were born, um, and who gave birth to you. Ask them what that was like. And
Mm.
so many times, my students find out exactly what you say, Iris, like, "Oh, wow, we had these traditions. No wonder I'm here. No wonder I'm in this course." It's because I'm looking to reclaim what is already mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain to people what the cuarentena is for people who don't know what that is?
I'd love to. La cuarentena is the sacred 40-day window after you give birth.
Mm.
When you give birth, that's day 0, and then on the 40th day, you complete the cuarentena. And what do we do in la cuarentena? La cuarentena requires you, this is a sacred ritual. It's also a type of self-sacrifice, like a literal sacrifice where
Mm.
you don't go outside, you don't go anywhere, you stay home, you don't do work, you don't move your body unless it's to care for yourself or your baby.
Mm.
You get taken care of by your family, community, or birth workers. You are fed 3 meals a day with snacks in between. We do atoles, like a corn gruel that's really good for calming the uterus, calming after pains, replenishing electrolyte balance, and also encouraging body milk, really abundant body milk. And we drink that in between. You are kept full like a baby. It's almost like they're fattening you up. Yeah, you're never hungry. You're never hungry. If you're hungry, then whoever's taking care of you is doing a bad job. You never get hungry, you're fed before you're even have an appetite, and you're just literally being poured into physically, emotionally, spiritually. You're given the rites of passage of the cerrada de caderas, the
Mhm.
closing of the hips, which is really the closing of the bones. We close all of the bones from head to toe. We massage you from head to toe. We do manual manipulation with the rebozo from head to toe. And we feed you caldos, which are soups, bone broth based soups with really well cooked veggies and usually corn for carbs. Um, Maize, like pozoles,
Mhm.
like they're like giant corn, giant, really starchy corn kernels. And again, those starches keep breast milk or body milk abundant, and it helps you with your energy because nursing, when you nurse, you burn 500 calories.
Per day.
So when per day, yeah,
Yeah.
per
Oh,
day,
wow.
you're burning 500 calories just sitting and nursing, even if you don't move. So yeah, so it's really important that you have enough nourishment. A lot of folks are worried about, what if I don't have enough breast milk? All you got to do is rest, eat, and hydrate.
Yeah.
And so that's what La Cuarentena is all about. It's about you not having to worry about anything, but you're allowing your body to recover and bonding with your baby. And this is nature. This is nature's cycle. This is what the earth, this is what the universe requires of us in order to have a peaceful postpartum. Our postpartum experience will impact our parenting forever. It will impact our relationship with our babies forever. So, this small investment, this small sacrifice of 40 days is really, you are investing in your whole life and your
Mhm.
child's whole life. And
Doesn't
everybody supports.
I wanted to say it doesn't really sound like a sacrifice. It really
You
sounds like a
know what though? Let me tell you. Let me tell you, like, okay. So I was here with my third baby, and
Mm.
my mom was cooking for me. It was really good. She ferments too. We have traditional fermented foods. My whole family, we practice this cuarentena. And so she fermented like huge jars of like different vegetables for me to have every day to make the meals different. She made big old things of soup for me every single day. And then one day she comes over and she's making tacos fritos, like fried, like flautas, like fried tacos for my husband, and it smells so. And I can't have fried foods in the quarantena. I can have hard foods in the quarantena.
Aw.
And so these are like deep fried tacos, and I could smell it. I could smell it. Like the frying corn in the lard. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. Can you make me some? And she's like, no, you can't have it. Like, grab your soup. Like, just, you're doing so good. You're doing so good. Just keep doing it. Keep having your soup. And I was like, I was like so mad. I was like, told my ex, like, eat in the other room. If I can have that, I don't want to watch you eat that good stuff. So it is delicious. It's wonderful. And a lot of times, like, you're eating nothing but soups for 40 days.
Mm.
You're eating nothing but hot things. It could be a hot ass day, and you still gotta drink your hot ass tea and sweat. No ice, no cold water. So it is beautiful, but there are those moments that are like, oh, you just gotta be motivated and like know that this is gonna pay off in the end.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. So much wisdom in this. And let's see, we spoke about the cuarentena. I think that's a very beautiful thing for people to remember, because a lot of cultures we don't take that time. I know in my country it's like 5 days in the bed, 5 days around the bed, and 5 days in the house. Like that's like the 5-5-5 rule. I mean, it's okay. And we have like Ramzorg, which is postpartum support that comes to your house. So that is like, I can't complain in my country. And I know in some countries in the world, I think in the US, sometimes people have to start work after what, like 10 days?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how?
Hmm.
People are still bleeding
I know.
after 10
I
days.
know. My aunt went to work after 9 days. She was like a really young mom. I think she was like 20, 21, but she had something to prove, you know.
Wow.
Like to her, it was like, I want to, yeah, it's like the whole capitalist mindset of I am only valued when I am productive.
Yeah.
And this is what productivity looks like. Productivity looks like I can like pop out my baby 1 week and go back to work and be so productive the following week. Right. And so some people, and my grandma was like telling her no, my family members were like, no, what are you doing? And now, unfortunately, that same aunt versus my other aunts who did honor the cuarentena, that same aunt is the only one suffering from womb issues. And she's had surgeries for prolapsed
Oh,
uterus. Yeah, she's the only one.
wow.
Yeah.
That really
And she super
shows.
regrets it now, of course.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the importance of this sacred time and honoring it is like we need to teach everybody to please
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
We need to teach, and also there's a level of unlearning that has to happen.
Hmm.
That same aunt, she had surgery for her prolapse, and everybody told her not to go back to work after her surgery. And she just took a couple weeks off. She said she felt well, she felt good enough, and the surgery, it ended up like not working because she went to work too fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. So people could tell you all the things. You could intellectually know all the things.
Mm,
In my aunt's case, she grew up in a family where all the things were done, but societally, there's
mm,
so much pressure.
there is.
There's so much pressure. And when we are not grounded and rooted in ourselves and our bodies, it's so easy for us to just fall off and
Mm,
follow the norm,
yeah.
do what's expected of us.
Yeah, and this specific topic actually brings me to the next topic that I want to talk about, which is colonialism. And obviously,
Mm,
the sickness of the productivity mindset is like a direct consequence of what colonialism is and has done to current societies. I mean, it never stopped. It's still here, like very prevalent, very much in our face. People don't
mm,
call it that way anymore, that term, but I
mhm.
believe it's still here. And I'm curious whether you could speak to how you feel colonialism has really challenged the preservation of ancestral wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah. Oof. Before I answer that, um, in terms of postpartum, I'm offering a free summit, and you can join us at indigenmama.com/summit. So yeah, if you're
Thank
postpartum
you.
or yeah, join our summit. Colonialism, damn, so much, so much. Yeah. Oof. In our so this is I feel like the main way that colonialism has ripped us apart is in our traditions, healing is not done alone.
Mm,
You heal in community. We call this community care. Um, and really, self care is community care when it's traditional. We
mhm,
care for ourselves collectively. We have rituals for collective care. For example, one of our rituals that my family still practices over in Tlaxcala, we have an uncut lineage of going into the Temazcal.
mm,
And my father has memories, my grandmother has memories of just going in there with everybody, their cousins, the neighbors. And you go into it's a giant sweat house. You go in there and you sweat, and this is the most purifying thing you can do for your body. It's not just a shower where you're showering the outside. You're literally sweating from the inside out. Your
mhm,
body core temperature is heating up. You're sweating and you're cleansing yourself and you're exfoliating with herbs. As you exfoliate with herbs, the herbal fibers are breaking down, which means the cell wall is breaking down and the volatile oils are being released directly into your bloodstream. And the mescal facilitates this because it opens your pores. When you're warm, your pores open. So you're getting a super dose of healing herbs and you're chatting, you're talking, you're bonding in the darkness. It's all dark in there.
mm,
And it's challenging sometimes too, because sweating, raises your heart rate. So you're like, a little winded and telling yourself to stay calm, and you're still like moving your body and massaging each other. And this is something that was banned in the
no,
1700s. It was banned. They forbade us to do this in the 1700s because they said that why is a grandmother going in there with her grandson and her son and like, there must be fornication happening. This is ungodly.
oh,
So to them, oh, and also we prayed to Temazcal, who is the goddess of the of the Temazcal. So they're like, this is fornication. This is worshiping idols, and they made it illegal. And this is why so many families have lost this tradition. Imagine going into a temazcal where you're all like, sitting together and, it's kind of close, you're kind of close and you're helping each other out with massages and exfoliation and everybody's naked and there's nothing gross or dirty or sexual about
mm,
it. It's literally a bath, you know.
yeah,
Imagine the amount of shamelessness we had to have in order to go in there. So when we see our bodies, when we show our bodies, and we feel like we're scrutinized, sexualized, shamed, like all of that is colonialism and its legacy in many generations of our people. We might have someone in our lineage who directly experienced that shame, that guilt. A lot of times they were imprisoned or tortured,
Mm.
forced to not practice these rituals anymore. And so we hold on to that ancestral trauma. One of the biggest things that I had to overcome when I launched my business, Indigimama Ancestral Healing, is that legacy of hiding. If I
Mm.
keep my head down, if no one could see me, I'm safe. But it wasn't until I could feel safe in my body and safe sharing my gifts. My don, we call it a don. A don is a divinely appointed gift.
Mm.
And once I was able to feel shamelessness, I experienced personal freedom and my business grew itself. And I was able to help so many more people
Mm.
than when I was living in shame and hiding and holding on to my ancestral wound of what I'm doing must be kept a secret.
Mm. Wow, that's really big.
Mhm.
That's really huge. And I cannot imagine all of the entire journey that you had to move through to get to this point to feel safe enough and to then go like, okay, now I'm going to do it. And then also on top of that, having to deal with what it means to be an entrepreneur in this modern time.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's wild. I actually teach, it's called Embodied Enterprise. I actually teach in a business course for Indigenous folks and folks of color because every Indigenous business on colonial land is revolutionary.
Mhm.
A radical act of liberation happens when Black and Brown people who are systemically oppressed
Mm.
when we have a business that contributes to our liberation. And we only do good with our businesses. We only uplift one another with our businesses. We can only do good. We can only move forward. And so I teach embodied enterprise in the Indigenous Business Kinship Circle because I feel like it's my job to show others what I had to go through so that they can skip all the hard parts
Mm.
and just move up here to thriving and existing in your purpose.
That's really beautiful. I got
Thank you.
goosebumps when you mentioned that. Like it's so beautiful to hear that. And it takes a lot of courage
Mhm,
to, to step forward and move forward and just do it.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're
And
welcome.
thank you for showing the way for other people who may not have landed in that safety yet. But that you're like,
Mhm,
here's my hand. Come on. Let's do it
mhm.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for that.
thank you.
Yeah. So you have a lot of like different aspects of your work. You've touched upon a few already, and I would love to talk about what are like the maybe this is a bit of a too structured way to approach it, but the key pillars of the ancestral healing model that you're practicing, and that comes with all the things. Like the business part is also that. So could you share a little bit about your unique pillars and how you bring everything forward?
Yes. So the first thing is everything I do is for healing colonial wounds. That's, you know, the big umbrella. Like whatever I do, whether it's healing postpartum, training postpartum practitioners, or teaching business classes, it all falls under we are healing colonial wounds with our existence. I want to honor my ancestors with my existence. I want my existence to inspire others and to heal their hearts. So how do I walk? How do I move? How do I run a business that reaches thousands and thousands of people each year? How do I do this? So, one of the things I do is I teach online courses. And one of the things is I teach self wound care through a course called Matriz y Concha, lifelong self wound care. And we meet online. Folks can also, once they go through this course, they can also come to my in-person Sobadas workshop where they're able to, yeah, they learn how to lift their womb into the appropriate position. They learn how to move their lymph, how to clear congestion from their abdomen, how to clear their fallopian tubes or their uterine tubes, how to massage their ovaries, how to clear their colon. They learn the anatomy, the physiology, and touch for any type of fibroids, cysts, scar tissue that happens for a lot of us, endometriosis. So they learn how to work on themselves. One of the biggest pillars is teaching folks how to do for themselves all of the things that they need to do so that they're well. So sobadas, a lot of people are like, well, why do you teach people how to massage other people if like you could just do it for them? It's like, one, I can't massage everybody. I have a 2-year waiting list. I can't
Yeah.
massage everybody. Yeah. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. And if I truly believe in the liberation of Indigenous people, then that means I have to bring back the traditions that were lost. I have to rewrite the books that were burned. I have to rebuild the communities that were ravaged by colonialism. And so, through teaching folks how to exist peacefully using ancestral medicine is one of the biggest pillars in Indigimama. So, sobadas, which is self wound massage, herbalism, being your own herbalist, and traditional foods. I teach folks how to ferment foods. I teach folks how to make medicinal bone broths. I've had my grandmother come in and teach my students, and they just sob. A lot of them don't a lot of them don't have grandmothers who were able to teach them. Either they weren't well enough, they, died before they got to the age to to learn, or they suffered from self-loathing, which is a very real thing in colonized communities where we disconnect and we just want to survive, so we hide, and we reject our cultures. And so bringing all of that back is one of the biggest things. Um, the other thing is giving back. So not only is this a business, but I give scholarships every single year. I just gave $20,000 of worth of scholarships for postpartum practitioners, and they're all Black, Indigenous people of color. And it's all thanks to Indigimama. It's thanks to the people who enroll in courses. I put a little bit aside for each scholarship, and for everyone who pays the full price, they are supporting folks who are not able to make it into the course, who wouldn't be able to make it into the 6-month healing journey. And all of the scholarships go to people who are already doing the work in their communities. They're already giving so freely of their time and energy. So I'm really confident that we're pouring into the exact people who pour into others. That way it creates like a cycle, a fountain of abundance for everybody. So I'm able, my hands, my lineage is able to touch people who I personally wouldn't be able to touch, but my
Mhm.
students do.
I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah,
That's
so
really
giving
beautiful.
back, training folks, and then community building, rebuilding our communities. One of the first things that I do when I have any new course is we have a clearing meditation where we clear the ancestral wounds of mother wounds and sister wounds. So
Mm.
all of the times that we were pitted against each other as women, and the distrust that we have for each other, the the times where we learned throughout our lives that we can't trust another woman, they're our competition. Taking away all of that bullshit that was meant to keep us weak, to keep us alone, to keep us suffering, so we stay in this cycle of oppression, just decolonizing and bringing back, actually, this is our strength.
Mhm.
Tending to each other, pouring into each other, being vulnerable and honest with each other is our strength. And after that first call, it's amazing because people I've been doing this work for over 15 years. People are friends for decades after this.
I
They
love
have,
that.
yeah, I've seen folks build businesses together. They have built community centers together. They've built like sacred circles of self-care where it's like regular self-care for years. And it's all because we're repairing the wounds of community. We need each other. No matter what, we always, if we have community, then we always have abundance. And this is something I learned growing up Mexican. You go to, it doesn't matter if you're, I had a friend who was like living in a single apartment with like 7 people, and it was her quinceañera, and it was so freaking fancy. And it was like tens of thousands of dollars. And it's all because she had her community sponsor everything.
Oh, wow.
All of her loved ones, like one person took care of the food, one person took care of the decorations, another person took care of like the chairs and tables, another 2 people took care of the venue. The rest of the people, they took care of the dress. And, like everybody gets together and puts a little bit in the pot, and you end up with so much abundance. And that is the most indigenous shit I could think of is sharing a little bit, and then everybody gains at the end. Everybody wins. We all had a good time. We all ate well. Yeah, it was her quinceañera, but like everyone felt like it was their party. We all had a great time.
I love that. Can you maybe explain to people what a quinceañera is for people who don't know?
Yeah. So today, post-colonially, a quinceañera is when you turn 15, you become a woman and you have a big party. It's almost like a wedding. It's funny. You put on a big fancy dress, and everybody you know is there. You eat, you dance. Hold on a second. Okay, I thought I had to sneeze. You eat, you dance. And a lot of folks before the quinceañera, they go to church and they have like a special mass for you. That's post-colonially, but its roots are actually indigenous, of course. And we have a special corn ceremony at 15 for the woman. And she goes from being a young cornflower to a
Mm.
fully, yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen the life cycle of corn or even like the delicate corn flour. It's just really the embodiment of like it does feel like teenage energy. Like it's round and you could see like it's about to blossom, but it's not ready, like it's not there yet. and it just looks so gorgeous. Like watching corn grow from seed to maturity is like watching a life happen.
Mm.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom in corn. And so the woman turns from a little girl, like a little tender cornflower, to maize, to like actual corn. And corn is our sustenance. Corn is considered our flesh. In our creation story, we're created from the grounds of corn.
Mm.
And yeah, we're created from like the corn masa, like the corn flour, blended with blood from one of the gods. And he mashed us up and created humanity. And so when we eat corn, we're um, consuming our flesh. We're consuming the flesh of the earth, and we're um, consuming the ultimate sustenance.
Mm.
Yeah. And so this ritual happens at 15, and then the person or the woman is considered, an adult.
Mm.
Lifespans were much shorter back then. So that was about midlife for a woman back then.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love these rites of passage. It's a whole other, I mean, it's related, but it's a whole other like depth of topic. But the loss of rite of passage is, I think, hurts so many people in so many ways.
Yeah.
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 Imagine every girl would get this as
Mm.
she was like on her journey after her first period.
Yeah. And there were um there were words that were shared from elders too. Like
Mm.
wisdom was imparted from elders, from people older than 15, and the parents and the midwife who birthed the 15-year-old, who
Oh,
helped catch the 15-year-old, all shared wisdom for her.
I love
Yeah.
that the midwife is also involved.
Oh, chills, chills.
Yeah. Oh, bless the midwives, like all
Mhm,
of them.
mhm,
Yeah.
mm,
So I have like one last thing that I want to ask you.
mhm,
Um, I would love to see whether you could share what are some indigenous approaches for learning about and understanding the body. I personally studied with an indigenous midwife from Colombia, and they shared such beautiful, heartwarming approaches
mhm,
with me, and also that the child there in that specific community, the first thing they learn about is their own body. And
mhm,
as they
mhm,
go on the threshold of puberty and they are about to have their first sexual encounter, they have to show on their, or the person has to show on their body, not on their genitals, but on their body, how they would please them. And then the feet are like the vulva, and the legs are the vagina, and the hips are the cervix. And it was the most beautiful story that I've ever heard in approaching the body. So I wanted to ask you whether you have any wisdom on, yeah, approaches on like how do you learn about the body?
mhm. That's beautiful. How do you learn about the body? Honestly, like growing up, I learned through apprenticeship,
Mm.
and there weren't very many words. It was all, you're immersed now, you're in this now, figure it out, observe, observe and do. Like when you're
Yeah.
done observing, like do it. Um, for example, um, I grew up watching limpias. Like if you have a
Mm.
fever, not only do you give physical, like teas for the body, but you do like egg limpias on the person. These are
Mm.
like spiritual cleanses with the egg to remove any energy that doesn't belong on the body. You can remove susto, anything that contributed to the physical illness. Spiritually, you're removing it, right? And so I remember this one time, my baby brother, he was really sick. I must have been like 6 or 7, but everyone was really concerned. And we put him in our Tia Lala. Lala was, she helped raise us. She was a great aunt. She was maybe like in her 80s. I just remember she was old my whole life. She was an old lady my whole life. And uh, we put him in the bed and we all surrounded him. And the adults were praying. And Lala came and she did his egg limpia, the cleanse. And only through that really scary moment that I learned that, okay, this is what you do. When someone is sick like this is the approach you take.
Mm.
Living through little examples, being immersed in these moments that really make an impact on you is what taught me the most.
Yeah, it's almost like core memories imprinting.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah. And I talked about in my book, Thriving Postpartum, I talk about how I apprenticed with my abuela in the kitchen, with my grandmother in the kitchen. And she didn't explain things, but she planted seeds. And only later did I realize what she was teaching me. But in her wisdom, she knew I could only learn if I learned it on my own.
Mm.
And if I didn't learn it on my own, I wasn't meant to learn it.
I love that
So,
approach.
oh my God, it's genius. I think she's an excellent teacher. She taught me in the best ways. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, bless all the abuelas of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Abuelas are the resistance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are. I had a very strong set of grandmothers too. I'm very proud of them. Like I think
Mm,
back with so much like love and care. Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. So to close off, what is there any more wisdom or vision you want to share for people and communities worldwide?
Yeah. Pay attention to your bodies and thank your womb. Put your hands on your womb and thank her for the work that she's always doing.
Mm.
Your womb is just like you. Your womb is always working, always doing. Even when you don't acknowledge it, your womb is working for you. It's holding up organs, it's being a buffer between your intestines and your bladder. It's, you know, contributing to your hormonal balance
Mm.
all month long, not just during bleeding, all month long, every day. And every day she's different. She's growing, expanding, contracting. And that's a reflection of you. So when you thank your womb, you thank yourself. When you thank your womb, you thank the blood that was shed to birth your womb because all of us come from womb blood.
Mhm.
If you're here, that means the womb that you came out of bled for you. So when you thank your womb, you're thanking generations. And so always bringing it back to your core, your womb, your ancestors. You will never lose yourself if you just come back to your body.
I love that. It's the truth. It's really true. When we step away and lose our bodies, we lose everything. Yeah. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
spending so much time and patience coming on here, sharing and giving so generously the
Mm.
wisdom that wanted to come through for you today. And if people are interested in learning more about you, what is the best way to find you or if they want to work with you?
Yeah, you can go to indigimama.com, find me there. I'm on Instagram as Indigimama. And if anyone can learn, if you want to pre-order my book, Thriving Postpartum, indigimama.com/book. And if you want to be in community with a bunch of amazing Indigenous folks and be in community with a whole 2 dozen speakers on ancestral healing and postpartum, then go ahead and join my summit, indigimama.com/summit.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to check that out, and I'm going to check out your book.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, this wraps up today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Want to know more about me? The best way to reach me is via @CycleSeeds on Instagram. And if you heard something today and you think, oh my God, wow, I learned something new, feel free to share the podcast on your social media and tag me. Or leave a review or rating. In this way, you help me reach more people like you. Thank you so much.